Good afternoon, class. I'm going to kick this off because I'm pretty excited about actually seeing a real class. And Leilani, if you'll admit people, I see that there's a sign up at top that says admit. If you'll take care of that for the next minute or so, I will get us started. My name is Kathleen Diamond, and I have the great privilege and honor to be the chair of ALC Bridge. And ALC Bridge is a concept that came out of the heads of people mainly running language companies and trying to figure out what they were going to do about the fact that they had fairly dry pipelines, which means that they were having trouble finding talent, global talent, multilingual talent to work in their companies. And this was a few years back, and I was a member of this small breakout group, and I scratched my head and I said, seems like we probably should be talking to the schools. The academic community is preparing very students that we'd like to hire, and perhaps that would be something that would be a good idea. And so there was a silence, and folks looked at me and they said, okay, Kathleen, what are you going to do about it? So here we are. I said, I think we have to create a bridge. At one end of the bridge are the language companies. We are the employers. We're looking for you. The other end of the bridge are the academic institutions that are preparing you to work in our companies. So that's the history behind ALC Bridge. And we were launched just before the pandemic, and then we had the pandemic. So we're just now really kind of hitting the ground running and talking to more and more students like yourself. And I will say, Devin, thank you, thank you, thank you. We've been doing this now for quite a while. Michael is new to the speaker corps, the ALC Bridge speaker corps, so he doesn't even know that this is so exciting. Oftentimes we just have blocks of, we don't even know who's there. So it's grand to have you debut, Michael, with actual real people that we can poke at. This is lots of fun. I'm going to introduce the people on the big screens with our splendid backdrops are all active members in, of course, the Association of Language Companies. And we are just thrilled to spend a little bit of time with you to talk to you about the incredible opportunities we have for you. And I'm going to start with Leilani Craig. She is the president, founder, and CEO of ComGap Languages. And she is the reason that we're here this afternoon because she knows Devin. So I'm going to let her take the mic and kick us off with some ideas for you this afternoon. Thank you, Leilani.
Oh, thank you. And hello, everyone. I see two shots of the classroom. So everyone wave. Okay, I see who's awake. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm going to share my screen. I would like to, let's see. Let me get this started. And can you all see that? Yes? Okay.
Yeah, we can see it. Thanks.
All right. So I just want to tell you a little bit about my story into my career in languages. I am the president and CEO of ComGap International Language Services. We are located in Salt Lake City. We do, however, work nationwide, and we have a few international clients, but I would say most of our services are provided here in the US. And may I say, go Argentina? They won like an hour ago. So we've been celebrating. Okay, so these are the companies I own. ComGap International Language Services, which provides translation and interpretation and all the related language services. Global One Voice is a media and marketing consulting firm. And We have a couple of other companies, Leading Edge and Capra Group. We delve into other areas. I am a multi-passionate entrepreneur, many areas of interest, and you will find that many entrepreneurs like to work in different areas. It's more than just one. I see someone in the waiting room. If someone else wants to let them in while I'm doing this. ComGap is certified by WeBank. We have a national certification as woman-owned, and we are also ISO certified for translation services. See, there we go. So we offer translation, localization, interpretation, transcreation, globalization. You will find that many translation companies kind of delve into the same areas of interest, and we are continually recruiting translators and interpreters. So if that's an area that you're looking to work in, please know that language companies need you. We need more professional level project managers, translators, interpreters, all the different areas. And I believe some of the different areas will be covered by Esther. I think you're covering the different parts of areas to work in. So I will tell you a little bit about my life. So I was born in Argentina, and I came to the US at the age of 12. I didn't follow the typical path of being the sole interpreter for my parents, which is common. A lot of immigrant children end up interpreting for their families. I didn't do that. My family spoke English just fine. They took care of their own medical appointments, but I did start my entrepreneurial path really, really early in my life. That's me. I'm probably 8 years old in this picture.
Far left or far right?
I'm the oldest. Yeah. So I loved to have little businesses as a child. I had all types of businesses. I'm sure many of you have, sold lemonade, whatever. And one year I decided I was going to go door to door and offer to cover textbooks for schools. A lot of schools required the textbooks to be covered to protect the textbooks. And at least it was that way when I was a kid. So I went door to door, offered to cover textbooks. The neighbors gave me stacks of textbooks that I took back to my house. I went to the store, I bought paper, brought it home, cut it up, covered all the textbooks, went back, returned the textbooks, got payment, got home so excited. I remember I had a bag about this big full of coins, dumped it on my bed, counted out the coins, and I had exactly the same amount of money that I started out with. I was so disappointed. That was my very first lesson in entrepreneurship. You have to charge a profit. And that's just spiked my interest in jobs and working. I always knew I would own a business someday. This was just my path in life. So we moved to the US. Shortly, a few years after this, we moved to the US. And in the US, my career started in jail. When I was in high school, I actually spent a couple of years in jail. And jail is just a really difficult place to be in. It's dark, it's just depressing, but it's not what you might think. I was actually hired by the local sheriff's office to be an interpreter for inmates in jail. And I was doing this during high school. They didn't have anyone else to help. So I would go into the jail, sit next to the bars of the cell jail, and interpret between the sheriffs and the inmates. And it opened up my eyes to a career that I never knew existed. It never occurred to me that you could actually make money and make a career in languages. And it only got better from there. It continued to grow and evolve. So these are some of the lessons. I won't go into all of them, but these are the areas where over the years, as I worked in the language industry and got involved, I went from working in the jail to being an interpreter for social services, becoming court certified, becoming a medical interpreter trainer, training interpreters, working in medical, going to work for the LDS Church in-house as a translator, doing a lot of confidential translation work, then being asked to start working in voiceover. I did a lot of videos, a lot of dubbing. I became very involved in voiceover work for movies and whatnot. I learned that you have to know that whatever you're interested in, is there a need? Do you have the passion to do it? If you don't, it will become old and boring really fast. If you want to start a business, you need to acquire business skills. You have to learn about networking, about having the money to do it. The language industry is very diverse. There is something for everyone, no matter what your interests are and where they lie. One thing for me was networking. Networking for me was huge. And Kathleen, you'll know some of these people in these pictures. Networking for me was what got me ahead and what introduced me to clients. These are some trips I made to Asia where I met with clients and I was able to meet with groups of translators that we work with. And if there's anything I would tell a group of students who are studying languages, start networking. I met Devin at a Women in Localization and UTIA gathering. And it's those places where we should have more students there, because you get to meet with some of the company owners and the recruiters and the people that work. The ALC created the ALC Bridge, which gives everyone an opportunity to find opportunities for internships. So networking is so essential. Another lesson is I knew what my weaknesses were. When working in business, know what your weaknesses are. When looking for a job, know where your weaknesses are. And make sure you focus on finding the help that you need for those weaknesses. And something I tell everyone when I speak like this, think big, but think bigger than big. Don't limit yourself. The language industry is huge. It's the largest industry that no one knows anything about. And there are so many jobs. There's such a shortage of talent in the language industry. We definitely need you. So decide what's your why? Why are you doing this? Why languages? Decide what your story is going to be like. You get to write your own story. You get to decide your own path and your own career. I love this quote. Clarity comes from engagement, not thought. We spend so many days of our lives thinking about things and never actually doing it. So decide where you want to be and what you want to do and do it. That's when you will really understand and know if this is what you should do. So that's me. The world is speaking. Do you understand? Is our slogan. I welcome any questions. There's my email and my phone number. Just let me know and I will be happy to help. So, thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. This has been such a pleasure. I have to tell you, class, I've known Leilani a few years, but I didn't know she was in jail. Oh, a shiver went down my back when she said that, and the image in front of me was like, oh my goodness, Leilani. So I thank you for a wonderful presentation, and I am just I just feel great this afternoon. I'm so happy to be with you, and I'm going to ask Esther to take the mic next. And Esther is got a whole nother sort of set of stories to tell you, because we feel that the best way we can engage your attention and get you thinking about working with us is to sort of show you what we do, and hopefully give you some real encouragement to join us. So Esther, please share the mic.
Hi, everyone. I am equally or more excited than Kathleen to be here today. And Leilani gave a phenomenal view from her entrepreneurial skills, but not all of us in the language industry are entrepreneurs, right? Some of us could be, but we decide maybe that's not where our passion is, right? So we take other roads, and that's what I'm here today for. It's like, I want to kind of like plant a little seed in your heads so you start thinking about what's your superpower, because I'm sure you have them. So I'm going to share my screen and I'll show you what I have prepared for today. All right, so I work for a company called PGLS. It's a great acronym from the 90s. You'll find a lot of people in the language industry have companies with some letters in there. So PGLS is Piedmont Global Language Solutions. And I am not the CEO of the company. The CEO of my company is a very young entrepreneur. He's only 38. His name is Mohammed Hussein. He's a Somali immigrant who, like Leilani, had many ideas. He was selling candy in his high school. I don't know if you guys know that story, but like Leilani, he used to engage in all sorts of entrepreneurial activities. He hired me to work as the program manager, directing the interpreting side of the business. So while we go through this, I want you to think, as I said before, what is your superpower? And I want to focus on the human side of the language industry, because that's really what brought me here. So what's my story? I was a horrible music student. I started with piano lessons, and at some point the piano teacher told my parents, why don't you send this girl to study some English instead? That's how good I was. So that was the beginning, and I have my music teacher to thank for opening my life to a different language and many different cultures to follow. So during my career, I work as a tourist guide and as an interpreter in different settings. I work as a translator. I taught at university. I work in medical settings, leading teams of interpreters. And I thought I had really made it when I started interpreting soccer matches on TV live. So if you're following the World Cup, you know, and you watch the Spanish soccer team play, on the sidelines, you saw a Barcelona soccer player called Pujol. I used to be the voice of Pujol on TV live. And if you think of Pujol, he's kind of like big and stout, and I am very tiny, and you can see the voice that I have, right? So that's how funny Pujol sounded when he spoke Spanish and not Catalan. So I thought I had made it, but that was the beginning of realization, hitting in and thinking, oh my Lord, I have so much more to learn. So I was a student like you, and like Leilani said, you have to start somewhere. And I started when I was a student. I studied in Barcelona, a 4-year degree in translation and interpreting skills with requirements to move all over Europe. So I had to move to Belfast. I moved to Northern Brittany in France. And during that time, I had to pay to be abroad. And I took little jobs that required language skills. Tourist guide, escort interpreter. I had the opportunity to travel from Barcelona to Martinique and Brussels. I also walked into a nonprofit on the way to my university and offer. I said, you guys work with the European Union. How come you don't have your webpage translated into other languages? That was my first gig as a translator. And I got involved a bunch of other classmates that helped me with the languages I didn't speak. Then the importance of networking that Leilani said, I started meeting other translators. And at a very early age, I made sure that I follow where they were going. So I got in touch with other companies that also require translation services. So I work for the courts through a company in Barcelona. I was an interpreter. I did conference interpreting too. That's when I also realized, oh my, I have to get better at this. And then my live TV interpreting was really Wonderful. So you might be thinking, well, Esther, you could do all that. You were living in big metropolitan areas, in Barcelona, in Belfast. I also moved to, London and Brussels. But the beauty of the industry right now is that you can do a lot of what I did on site. You can now do it from the dorm that you are staying, as long as it's quiet, right? So you can work on site. You can do now video remote interpreting from the comfort of your own home, phone interpreting, and even remote simultaneous conference interpreting from your house. So the world just opened up to you because all our companies tend to do a lot of global business, and most of what we do right now is virtual or hybrid. So I was a university professor like Devin at some point, teaching students like you. So I had studied cognitive linguistics, pragmatics, discourse analysis. If you're delving into some of these areas, they will serve you well. Don't think it's just theory, will never come to take center stage. They did for me. I was a fellow at Durham University in England. I taught language courses, translation, interpreting practice, and socio-political language courses. And that's when one of my first passions, maybe the second, came in. I love politics. So I started a master in international relations. And then in that wonderful master, where I also taught an MBA business course, Spanish for Business, it was called, part of an MBA, I met this phenomenal American student who swept me off my feet, and little did I know, I quit my PhD that I had recently started. I quit my job at university and I moved to the US. He had taken Chinese classes, and for some strange reasons, he showed up in my Spanish class. And little did I know, I'm now in the United States. So when I arrived here, I had to pretty much start from scratch again. I taught language courses from kindergarten to high school until I made it back again to university. I put myself a goal in 2 years, I'm back teaching in college. So Leilani said, focus, do something. You need to know where you're going. And that's what I did. I wanted to get back to university. So I arrived at university. I was teaching a course on interpreting for and Spanish for the healthcare professions, and a nurse was taking my course. And she said, Esther, we have a lot of need in the hospitals for interpreters, and you have a background in this. Why don't you look into that? I was like, oh yeah, why don't I look into that? And I looked, and I became fascinated by the fact that in this country, language access is a framework of laws, and is sometimes the reason why some of our companies exist. But I became fascinated about not just the laws, that, as you can see on your screen, there are many that regulate the use of language interpreters in healthcare, right? I became fascinated by the fact that despite these laws and regulations being in effect, they were still not being met. And there was a tremendous need for interpreters, and a lot of institutions could not even get the help they needed for these patients. So I started working in a hospital, leading a team of 65 interpreters, 28 freelance translators. And again, because I love teaching, I found my way networking into the medical school. So I wanted to make sure that young doctors, young students who were going to be the future of the doctors of the future, had an opportunity to learn about language access, to learn how to work with interpreters. Why was that important? How they should accommodate the way they practice when they are actually talking through an interpreter, right? So I became part of the medical school. I was fascinated with something called critical medical humanities, which is kind of like a cocktail maker of a bunch of like arts and philosophy and humanities discipline that tell us that we can use that not just to train doctors and educate them, but also to critique the way medicine is practiced and delivered in this country. And oh my, That was my big attraction. I ran poverty simulations to show the CEOs of big hospitals, this is what some of the people that you work with, come through with this baggage through the doors of your hospitals, right? They don't live in these like white middle-class suburban neighborhoods, and they have social determinants of health and barriers that are going to make their care not equal and more difficult, right? So I also at some point decided that the state of Massachusetts needed a way to build this pipeline that we're talking about, right? We don't have enough interpreters. So what can I do about that? So I went ahead and I created the first medical apprenticeship in the state of Massachusetts, just to make sure that I could have enough interpreters coming through that pipeline to help these patients. I did much more in the hospital, but I don't have time about that. Feel free to ask me later. I just want to make sure you walk out of here today knowing that my story is just one of many. And as Leilani said, there's so many opportunities out there. I focus on language access because it is a passion. But you heard Leilani kind of mention, I did voiceover. I did some dubbing, something like that, I think she said. So there's more things out there for you. We need localizers. We need people that do voiceover. We need people that do subtitles for all the wonderful Netflix shows you watch that are not English, right? Language leads for our companies, schedulers that help us with interpreting appointments, transcriptionists. Sometimes the jail, like Leilani said, they are transcribing all the conversation that those inmates have on the phone. Right? So sometimes we need to, contract with people that will transcribe and will use technology also to do so, right? We need terminologists, we need project managers, and we need, yes, the obvious, translators and interpreters, but also managers, people in leadership positions. So I'll tell you what, it's very hard. We need people in sales, marketing, programs manager, and leadership roles. They can have all the business skills in the world, but when you come in with the business skill and an affinity for language, oh my, the world is your oyster, right? So pick carefully which type of company you want to work with, so your values kind of align. I picked PGLS. Our mission is to provide equity through language access. They had me at hello because that's part of my passion, right?
Hey,
so
good. How are you?
I do all sorts of things for them, and this passion needs to be alive, because if it is not, you're going to find some of the other stuff a little boring. So I lead a global team. I focus on process improvement and integrations. I make sure that I customize solutions for our clients so it's the best for them. I look at quality and engagement. I develop my team, and I try to design processes that are inclusive so we can also maintain our startup culture. Now, some of you are sitting there thinking, but everybody says that language companies are automating and we're not going to have a job. Google is putting out all these things, AI, machine translation. What do you tell us about that? I tell you that what we do in language service companies is just more than translate and interpret. We manage complexity, and that complexity, my friends, is very hard to automate. So you are probably already investing in some of the skills that we need. You have language skills, cultural awareness, cultural sensitivity, interpersonal communication, problem solving, analytical skills, teamwork, things that Devon is already teaching you right there. We need all that, because those great transferable skills from the humanities, they transfer to what I need. I need people capable of managing staff. I need people capable of building relationships across global teams. I need problem solvers, people that come to innovate. I need you to have that capacity to go and convince somebody, because we need that budget approved. So some of the stuff that you do already in humanities programs, you're already putting those steps into the skills that you need to develop. So I asked you at the beginning, what's your superpower? You might not know it yet. I didn't know it when I started, okay? But you have to start somewhere. This is an exciting time to be in the language industry. We've been from that language access paradigm that I told you, those set of laws that are set up in the United States, right? And it's just a framework of law. But we're moving from that to start talking about language justice and human rights. So this is very exciting. We are getting advocates, politicians, people from different walks of life, not just the language industry, talking about this. We were the hidden industry for a long time, but we're not hidden no more, right? And right now, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging is also in there, which means that if you have some technology skills, if you have all the humanities skills that I mentioned, this industry needs you. This industry really needs you, and there is a place for you. So where do you start? You're gonna hear Michael bringing you up to reality, telling you really what big companies like his need. And I will say, yes, don't lose your passion, because there are places to start like I did when I started, right? I didn't have all the ducks in a row, but we offer webinar series. We have an interpreting academy. We need instructors, so if you have already been teaching, reach out to us. We have instructor opportunities. We have pathways to build you as future leaders. So contact me, get in touch, and I just finished before Kathleen kicks me out.
Oh.
Think about what your skills are. Take advantage of the opportunities that come your way, like this one. Self-reflect and self-critique and address those gaps that Leilani was telling you before. But I will also say, invest in your strengths. Don't worry too much about the things that you cannot do well. Don't overlook them, but also focus on your strengths, because right there is where your passion lies. And if your passion is ahead, it will lead the way. Research, plan, execute, stay aligned with your values, and the world is your oyster, and we have a place for you.
Thank you, Esther. I mean, I think your superpower is just being you. You are amazing. Thank you so, so very much. And students, we will make sure that we give a little bit of time at the end of our prepared remarks for you to come back at us. It's now my great pleasure to introduce Michael. And Michael is, he's first time at this class, so we got to go nice and easy on him. But he comes from one of the largest companies in our ALC group, and he comes to me, I will say it personally, from his boss, who is a member of the ALC Bridge Committee. So you're going to be hearing from a real pro, and his perspective is completely different. So I'm going to let him talk. Michael.
Hi, nice to meet everyone today. I'm gonna, before I start sharing in my PowerPoint, I like being able to look at the class because I'm looking for a little interaction here. And I'll give you a little feedback. Michael Termina, I'm the Director of Human Resources for Language Line Solutions. We are a very large company, let's just say around 20,000 employees for Language Line Solutions, which we're part of Teleperformance, which is 250,000 employees worldwide. So that just gives you a feeling for who we are. What I'm going to focus on today is I have two sons who are in college and probably about everyone's age, and it's a little bit of not tough love, but I've really looked at it as in internships in the language industry. How do you get an internship? Because I'm sure, and if I can see some participation, my show of hands, how many are here today because you either want to get an internship or you have to get an internship like my sons to graduate? Is that a requirement for most of you? Good. All right. So
it's not a requirement, but how many want to get an internship?
Okay, so I'm going to focus on some of the things, the practicality of what it takes to get an internship. I think we've highlighted that there's lots of opportunities in this industry, and I can give you a little background for me because I'm different than most people who are in this industry. I don't speak another language. I came out of college and I went into Silicon Valley. I transitioned out of Silicon Valley into banking. I got into a startup company where I was one of the major owners of the company, where we were in medical waste. So I had gone from clean rooms to dirty rooms, and we built that up and sold it to a publicly traded company. So that's a little bit of my quick background. But one of the things that I'm going to focus on is, what do you do to get prepared to get an internship? So, one of the things I like to do, years ago, I used to do on-campus recruiting. When I was probably not much older than most of you are now, when I came out of college. And so when we would go on campus, it was the way we would evaluate, myself and engineers that would be doing interviews, is that we would look to see how prepared are the individuals when they come to that interview. And so it's the same thing today. Is I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm not going to ask people to raise your hands, but how many of you researched any of the companies that were going to be participating today? You don't need to raise your hand, but I just want you to ask yourself that question. What have you done to prepare yourself for this besides just walk into class? And like I said, I have two sons about the same age, and this is some of the same advice I've given to them. When you, besides researching a company that is either giving a presentation or that you might apply for to get an internship, you need to start thinking about, what are someone's hiring schedules, right? When do they get their recs approved and start to hire? So when do you need to have your resume ready? You need to have visited on campus, that you have gone and talked to the internship department, so you don't do what my youngest son did and do an internship with an oral surgeon, and because you didn't fill out the right paperwork, you get 0 credit for it. Right? So these are things I'm just throwing out. You need to decide, are you looking for an internship that is on-site or remote? Right? There's a lot of opportunities now in companies like ours that there are positions. We're almost fully remote, but somewhat hybrid here at the corporate offices. But that is something that you'll want to research or reach out and ask about, so that you can start to look at, how am I going to fit in? What's the compensation, right? That's important. There's a lot of you that, might be paying for your own college, and having compensation during that time, it will be important. And that's something that you can share. If you're going to be going to a company and you're going to be on site, do they offer any type of housing assistance or accommodations? So these are all things that, I've got on my PowerPoint, but I like to just talk to people, more of a fireside chat, to say these are things that you should be thinking about. Once again, then you want to look at, what do you really enjoy doing? When I used to do on-campus recruiting, and I would ask a question, I would ask every time, what drew you to our company? And if someone couldn't respond, they were an out. I didn't care if they were a electrical engineer with a 4.0 GPA. If they showed that they had not taken the time to do their research or kind of know what they wanted, that showed that that's how they were going to approach the job that I might give them, and that they weren't going to be the best fit. So these are things where I'm, like I said, it's a little bit of what have you done? Because you had an opportunity to say, these are the opportunities. Now I am going to come back with what a VP used to tell me every day, is, what have you done for me lately? So it's a mutual relationship here. If you're looking at, for example, doing interpretation, and we talked about, you need to find out, what are the technical specifications? So even though you might be able to do it in your dorm room, because of privacy issues, you have to, for us, you have to guarantee that no one can walk in on that conversation, right? So, or it's because you could be interpreting someone's financial information or medical information or things like that. And so if you need to do your research as you identify, this is what I'd be interested in, this is where my skill set is, and know that if you apply for that internship, what it will mean. So it might mean doing legwork to go to your counseling department and say to them, I need a room that has these following technical requirements for internet access because I'm going to be a remote worker doing interpretation, and I need to be able to have it quiet and not be interrupted. That's something that so if you came to me and I was interviewing you and you said, I'm interested in doing this and I've already looked into the following things, that's going to show that you're the type of individual that we want to hire in an internship and potentially to when you graduate. So, other things to have ready for all of you should be doing. What is your school schedule? Different schools run different schedules. And so there are some companies that try to say, okay, we're going to have our interns start at a certain time so we can kind of group them together to do orientation and things like that. You need to be ready to say, okay, this is when school ends and when I can actually be ready to work, because there's some time. If you're like my two sons, there's a few days after that there's, I'll call, end of year celebration before they want to start an internship. Also, when do you have to be back? If you're either on site or you have to, even if you're remote, that you have to stop working. Do you have, any planned vacations? It looks terrible if you get to an offer stage and you say, oh, by the way, I need 3 weeks off in the middle of my internship because I have this trip planned to, the Bahamas. Right? Isn't going to go over well. And because it's not only that you want to get your internship, it's that you want to get a job. And this is the stepping stone to hopefully you getting, a job. Other things that I like to share, just so you're aware of. At our company, you have to go through a background check. That takes time. So you have to get into the system, you get an offer, there's background check, there's drug screening. Everyone's like, well, wait a minute. I actually researched you, Michael, and you're in California. Drug screening, marijuana is legal in California. Yeah, but we have federal contracts. So everyone, including myself, has to be drug screened before they can start. Also, if you were, for example, said that you were going to be an interpreter, there could be up to 6 weeks of training that we put you through before you would even be able to get on the phone with someone. Right. And that's a great thing to have because it's something that you can take with you. And it talks about the role of an interpreter and, all the things you don't interject personal opinions and things like that. But just to know, sometimes I think younger students I've talked to, like, for example, friends of my kids that are at Berkeley and they're doing language and they have this idea that they're immediately going to be working for the United Nations. And interpreting, and that's probably not going to happen. You have to go through some training and work your way up. So these are just a few of the things that I wanted to throw out there to say, we'd love to have you. We're going to end up posting positions as soon as we're in the process for our company, for example, where you submit everything for a calendar year, because we weren't on a calendar fiscal year, are the same. And we'll then know, what internships we have open, and we'll post them here. But I wanted to get all of you ready so that you're prepared when those open, because a lot of times I've seen a lot of students, they wait till the last minute. And I know I'm preaching, but like I said, I have 2 kids that I just have to drive it in. You wait till the last minute, you go and then you're not prepared, and then things don't work out. And so I'm trying to give you the inside track on how do you land an internship. And, I can, talk about there's lots of different opportunities. You do not have to only be in languages. You can talk to people that and say, hey, there may be internships, even if language isn't your primary area of study, because we have people that are accounting, finance, IT. The new language I like to talk about is, for us, we have to be able to route all of these calls all over the world. We have employees in all these different countries. And so one of the biggest areas for us that we've seen growing is on the technology side, not in machine translation, but just, I sit at a site where we have our servers, and it's just handling our servers and everything like that. So there's lots of opportunity, but if you want to take advantage of the opportunity, you have to put yourself forward and make the effort. And I used to teach a class a long time ago. They said, you can insert here. It says the successful blank. So I'll say the successful student who wants an internship is the one that's willing to do what the unsuccessful student for an internship it isn't willing to do. So you have to put yourselves out there. And I hope this motivates you to go in and do the work and take the steps so that if you get to a point where you do apply, at least with any of our companies or another company that's in the language industry, that you're prepared and you've got a much higher probability of landing a job. And so thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. It's always, it's hard to hear sometimes, but it does take work on your part as well. So I appreciate you just putting it right out there, Michael, and I thank you so much. I would like now, before we're down to just about 7 minutes, but Devin, I have prepared a quick slideshow on the how to come into the ALC Bridge website to apply for an internship. And I'm going to send it to you, obviously, to share with the students. Would you like me to just do a quick run with it right now?
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, good. All right. So now it's my turn to share screen. So hold on, kids. Okay, so what I have been speaking to Devin about is that ALC Bridge is going to be launching this year we have the platform, and what we're doing is we've got it ready for you all to come in and look for internships that our companies are going to post. And I'm very excited about it, but I need to tell you that you'll be playing with us. This is something that we're going to be experimenting with together because as you know, it's a bridge. So I've got to have the companies at one end, and then I've got to have the students at the other. And so this slide is to prepare you to come in, and first thing, of course, is to go to the website and access the internship postings. And we've just tinkered with this and made it live and ready. And it is, except if you go today, you're probably not going to see any postings because Michael has been busy talking to you this afternoon. I'll explain timing a little bit as we go through, but we think it's the clearest, simplest way to have this work for you. But you'll go down to under resources for students, and there you'll just click through. I love this page, designed for you. And it's find an internship. So let's see. I don't know whether you can't see. Nope, that's it. So they're right behind my head here is find an internship. And you click on that box and keep moving through. And here is where you will find the company's offerings. And these offerings, as I said, are not going to be there right now because we're just getting them ready to participate as we're getting you ready to participate. Devin has told me that he needs to have this really ready in January so that you guys can start looking for opportunities for this summer. So in the meantime, I would like you to go to the website because the website will give you lots of information about the industry and the kinds of resources that we have, the sorts of people that work with us. The application process we think is quite simple. Once you come in, you own it, and you can choose how you want to interact with the companies. And you'll be creating yourself your own presence, if you will. So I think it's a good time to maybe give you some answers to the question, why ALC Bridge? And we answer it straightforwardly and very strongly with the fact that ALC Bridge is focused on language services. And it's the most cost-effective way of posting internships rather than going to commercial job boards. We know we compete with lots of job boards, but ours is unique. It's really focused on this industry. We work with the language service companies to formalize and mature their internship programs because surprise, surprise, we have a range of companies among us, and some are quite small and don't even think that an internship is appropriate for them. So we help them learn how to get ready to take you in and work along with you. So we are hoping to give you comprehensive listings and higher quality internship experiences. We will take you serious. You'll have a really good experience working with us. And we hope to align with students' goals. And the relationships that we're building, such as we're doing this afternoon with Utah Valley, is everything. It's what's going to make or break this whole effort. We'll also offer educational webinars to you and to faculty, anybody that wants to listen to us. We're ready to go on and bring the show. So I'll finish up with today's challenge, and that is that we are populating ALC Bridge and using this platform for what it's designed for. And that's simple, connecting people with internships, i.e. jobs, and internships jobs with people. So let's get started and let's make it happen. And thank you so much for spending some time with us this afternoon. My clock says we have 1 minute per question, Devin. I'm sorry. I turn it over to you.
That's totally fine. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone else as well, to Esther and to Michael and Leilani. Students, floor is yours. Questions? Might only be time for a couple. Yeah, Matt?
Yeah. So would you say in this industry, is it helpful to have a master's degree or is a bachelor's degree sufficient? I just wanted your thoughts on that.
I'll take it first and then ask panelists to answer to. The truth is that you don't need to have a master's degree. The truth is that you really just need to have basic. We're looking for world skills. You know, how does the world work? And so you don't have to have a master's degree. Leilani, Esther.
I'll take part of this. So remember when I said that I started interpreting and I did conference interpreting right off school like you guys? I did, and it can be done. However, if you're really shooting to do conference interpreting, and the game right now is to be specialized in a particular area, it would be then my recommendation that yes, if you're very good at simultaneous interpreting, you want to invest some money in a master's degree that is going to put you closer to maybe a medical specialization, just go ahead and do it, right? I do work with interpreters that have them, and I have interpreters that do not have them. But, you know, they have built up their specialization in other ways, right? Maybe they are doctors in another country and their license was not ever validated in this country, and that's, you know, they have phenomenal language skills. So you'll have to judge that on your own. I think in certain parts of the industry, and if Naomi Bauman was here, right, she runs a company that does just remote simultaneous interpretation, she'll be telling you what I'm telling you.
Leilani?
Yeah, my mind, when you asked that question, my first thought was, well, it depends where you want to work in the industry. Because you can work in an office job or you can work as a linguist in different areas. You can be a project manager. it depends where you want to work. So if your question is focused on becoming a translator or interpreter, then yes, depending on this, the area of specialization, and no, if you simply want to be a basic interpreter, like a medical interpreter, and then you just become certified as such. So it really depends.
Michael, last word.
Oh, no, I agree. It depends on where your ultimate goal is. And when I used to be a recruiter years ago, you always looked at, when you say, do I get my master's? I usually used to like people that I saw that they would get to their bachelor's, have practical experience, and then get their master's, because I felt that they got more out of their master's. So that's just my personal take on anyone, not just this industry, anywhere you would go to, is that sometimes I will tell you behind the scenes what the talk is that they're all academic, no application, so the master's doesn't count as much. I'm trying to be really honest. Whereas if you had someone who said, oh, they got their bachelor's, they worked for a while, and when they got their master's, then they were taking real world situations and working that into their master's program, they were seen as more valuable.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have another question?
Any other questions from you guys?
Can I just chime in really quick?
Yes, please.
So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jolene. I'm the internship coordinator for humanities majors, which includes languages. And so Kathleen, this is so exciting to be able to we're looking to grow the language internships at UVU. And so this is such an exciting resource. So I appreciate all of your time, but I wanted to let students know and kind of put in a plug. I'm in the advisor suite in the Clark building. So if you're wanting to look for internships, then, let's connect. Also, I'm not sure of the part-time jobs or the full-time positions that are posted through ALC Bridge, but students can receive credit for those as well. They can receive internship credit for any practical experience. It doesn't have to be a internship per se. So that's just a little quick tidbit I wanted to say, and I appreciate all of your time here. So thank you.
Thank you. My goodness.
Can I throw something in quickly?
Yes,
Jolene, you
please.
mentioned that we've had 2 of our interns end up becoming not just full-time employees, but managers. So there is sometimes through an internship program, a path into employment. Something to keep in mind.
Great. Okay. I think we've given you a pretty full afternoon, so I know it's earlier out where you are than here in the East Coast. So I'm going to say thank you and end the session.
All right, thank you so much to you. Thank you to Kathleen, to you, and also to Esther and Michael and Leilani. We really appreciate it, and we're looking forward to getting internships through ALC Bridge.
Fabulous.
Bye. Nice to meet everyone.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Bye.